I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Terry Horton. I've been following Terry for several years on LinkedIn, and when COVID-19 shifted our academic master plan process to the fall semester, and we rebranded General Assembly to the College of the Future, she seemed like the perfect addition to our program. Dr. Terry Horton is a workforce futurist and artificial intelligence and business strategist. She has a multidisciplinary background in human resources, brand development, innovation, artificial intelligence, business strategy, and higher education, including experience with community colleges. Her unique expertise combines leadership and organizational change, innovation, human-centered design, talent, learning, and skill development with the impact of artificial intelligence on organizational strategy, the future of work, and careers. Dr. Horton holds a doctorate in education from the University of Southern California, focused on organizational change and leadership, an MA in management, an MBA in marketing, and micro-credentials in data analytics from Cornell and artificial intelligence business strategy from MIT. She is also a Forbes contributor on the topics of leadership and the future of work, and we are extremely excited and happy that she's able to join us today. Terry, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Good morning, Austin Community College District. And it is my distinct pleasure to greet you this morning at the General Assembly. As Susan stated, I am a workforce futurist, and my work sits at the intersection of the future of work, artificial intelligence, and what that means to organizations and people. So when we talk about the future of work, I am absolutely excited. And in the context of what that also means to higher education. Just a little bit of background, my doctoral research was all about the future of work and the role that higher education plays in preparing students for the future of work. In fact, I share this story often. One member on my dissertation committee really pushed back on the connection between higher education and the need to prepare students for the future of work. In fact, her perspective was that that was the work of community colleges. My argument was that preparing students for the future of work is the work of all of us, and that soon, four-year universities, sooner than they realized, would be looking to models that were put in place by community colleges to prepare students to move into the workforce so freely. So we need to establish a couple of things up front. What we do know is that the future of work is now. And in context, when we talk about the future of work, we're talking about the time period specifically between 2020 and 2030. So it's our role as educators when we think about this in the context of the moving and unfolding of the future of work and what that means to higher education. It's about preparing our students and letting them live their full potential, matching their passions with their work, and helping them harness the power of their future. Now, for context, let's kind of put some parameters around what the future of work actually is. So the future of work is actually influenced by what we call Industry 4.0. And Industry 4.0 is where we are today as we moved from the Industrial Revolution into the Internet of Things, hyperconnectivity, and the ability to use futuristic technologies and combine them in game-changing ways. So it means technologies like blockchain, sensors, big data, AI, machine learning, sensors, drones, 3D technology. And so these technologies, some of them have been around for a while, we know that, but this is a unique moment because we're able to combine them in ways that we weren't able to do before. In fact, the impact of Industry 4.0 and artificial intelligence is so profound that one of my favorite scientists, Dr. Andrew Ng, said that AI is like the new electricity. It's set to revolutionize every aspect of work, every sector, every role, and how we live our lives. So if we look at it, here's what I want you to take away. The future of work is about digital transformation, organizational transformation, and driving change, innovation, and exponential growth. So it's about taking data, technology, and people and combining them in game-changing ways that allow organizations to solve new problems, create deeper relationships with their customers, become more efficient, and move into new markets. Now this slide, I want you to just kind of pause for a moment. There's a lot here. Lots of logos. Here's what I want you to think about. Every single one of those logos represents an enterprise solution. An enterprise solution, whether it's specific to infrastructure, cross-functional data, and more importantly, to roles, whether they are sales, marketing, human resources, accounting, government, education, or advertising. Each one of these logos represents a solution to help organizations become more efficient, more accurate, and do amazing things. Let's look at a couple of examples. One of my favorite is that of KFC. Now, in some markets in the US, KFC is piloting a facial recognition program. So imagine this. You drive up to KFC, you get to the drive-through, and there's artificial intelligence working in the background. So the person that says, "Hello, Terry, welcome to KFC. Would you like a chicken or try our new chicken sandwich today?" Instead of offering everyone that same offer, you can use artificial intelligence, facial recognition to track and assess my age, my gender, my sentiment, my mood, and remember all of that in addition to what I ordered. So that the next time that I come to the drive-through, they have a better opportunity of driving my purchase behavior and creating a personalized experience for me. Another favorite is Nike. Now, I don't know about you. You may have someone in your family like this, and you may be one yourself. I have a brother, he's a sneakerhead. He loves tennis shoes. So the Nike Maker experience was absolutely a profound experience for him. So for a while, you've been able to go online and order your own customized version of a Nike tennis shoe. But a few years ago, they opened the Nike Maker experience. So someone like my brother could actually go into a Nike store, go into a room, step into a platform, put on a pair of plain white Nike shoes, and command a screen to develop and design a shoe of his choice. Whether it's a blue Nike with a red stripe, with shoestrings dotted with basketballs. He and everyone else can do that. And in that way, Nike combines voice activation, graphic projection, virtual reality, object tracking. And what was the goal when we talk about these game-changing things? In order to create a more personalized experience for shoppers and to reduce the time that it takes to actually develop a personalized shoe. Drives sales, drives experience, and it supports their brand. One of my other favorites is how artificial intelligence is being used in human resources today, particularly for talent acquisition. So what's the problem? Reducing the cost of time to hire, the cost of hire, and the caliber of candidates. So a lot of organizations use platforms like HireVue that use biometric and psychometric analysis to assess candidates not only for skills, qualifications, education, but guess what? Also cultural fit, the propensity to be engaged. These are examples of some of the game-changing ways that organizations are able to leverage Industry 4.0 technologies. What does that mean for higher ed? So you think about some of these intersections. That means higher ed really has to embrace the whole notion of high-tech, high-touch. Tech everywhere, across programs, experiences, services, campus facilities. That means AI across business programs, education programs, health sciences, in career services, in the registrar's office, financial services, and even in advising. High tech everywhere. It will influence the way that we engage with our students, the way that we provide services and support for them, and fundamentally revolutionize the way that we work. That means tech everywhere. I was really excited about working with the Austin Community College District because of where you are and where you're going. And so when we talk about high tech, high touch, and infusing these technologies across the entire experience, that's across all of your campuses, whether it's Riverside, Cypress, Rio Grande, or Northridge. We're going to take a deeper dive into the intersection of higher ed and future work and how they're connected. Now, for those of you that have been to California, you may recognize this freeway. This is the notorious 110 freeway. I'm a native of Southern California, and I can't tell you how many times I've traversed this freeway across my life. But one of the things that we pay attention to here when it comes to this freeway in particular is that if there is a speed bump, an accident, anything that happens on that freeway, it has reverberating effects across the other off ramps and other roads and highways that intersect that freeway. It's kind of the same with higher ed, it's the same with higher ed and work as well. They're inextricably connected, and they need each other, right? So if something happens in higher ed, it can have effects in the workplace, and the same thing. So we depend on each other. Now let's talk about this movement to the future. So pre-COVID, employers and higher ed alike were working very fervently to prepare organizations and institutions to move forward. Employers were working on future of work strategies, digital transformation, and many community colleges and institutions of higher learning were looking at developing new master plans, moving more of their content online, and really expanding the digital experience for students. But then there was COVID. I remember seeing the statistic and really just stopping for a moment just to take it in. Now, as a workforce futurist, we know that the most transformation that would happen as we move through the unfolding of the future of work would happen between 2020 and 2026, right? So 2026, 2027, the way that we work and would be relatively normalized. The COVID accelerated the unfolding of the future of work by nearly 5 to 7 years. What that means is that we are living through, at this moment, the rapid transformation of the workforce. Think about higher education. The same happened in higher ed. Think about how quickly we needed to move into online and remote instruction. Think about all of the changes that we had to move through very quickly in a matter of weeks and months. So when we talk about the unfolding of the future of work moving forward, it is happening very rapidly, and it's driving radical change that will set us up for success moving forward in the future. Let's talk about some of that intersectionality. Now, in addition to COVID, if we just reflect for a moment on our experiences, we were all shocked by the pandemic. And in addition to the pandemic, we began to deal with issues related to the economy, high record levels of unemployment, managing around social distancing, and we also had to deal with issues of social justice and equity. But that meant something, there was commonality between employers and higher ed. Both were managing and juggling these issues together at the same time. So just as higher ed had to, just as employers had to, and higher ed had to really think about changing business models, shifting operational models, thinking of new people strategies, figuring out what to do with remote work as it related to staff, thinking about really what platforms would be used and how we would move students successfully into online instruction. Think about rapid upskilling. Think about all of the training that had to go into place really quickly to help teach faculty to learn how to use new LMS systems and even how to use Zoom platforms. Digital transformation was accelerated for all of us, higher ed side and in education. And we were all faced with dealing with social justice, issues around inclusion and belonging for staff, as well as students. One thing that is common for both that will persist is that of revenue shortfalls related to all of these issues coming together at one time in a very historic way. So we call COVID the Great Accelerator, right? So it accelerated the unfolding of the future of work. It accelerated the unfolding of change and transformation in higher ed. But we learned something. What did we learn? We learned that most organizations and institutions were a little more agile than they believed. They were able to transition people into new roles and spaces easier. And shifting and changing processes wasn't that difficult. And indeed, most organizations and institutions were able to sustain continuity, and are continuing to do so today. What about ACCTV? I learned that the same was true for you, that you easily transitioned to online and remote learning. Faculty members modified their office hours and assignments, and faculty and student services alike came together to foster empathy, equity, and inclusion for students as they transition into this new space and this new place that we are. In about, I'll say June of this year, I was working with several clients before on a few projects before COVID, but I started to get a lot of calls right around June from clients that wanted to know what was next. And so I started diving into the latest research from management consulting firms and digging into their insights around COVID and the impact to business. And there was a common theme that emerged. Look at all of the R's. That's what struck me, first of all. So whether it was Accenture, Deloitte, Kantar, or even McKinsey, look at the theming here. Reopen, reinvent, respond, recover, thrive, reframe, reskill, reset, resolve, resilience, and return. It's all about moving forward, recognizing that we've experienced something, recognizing that we're not going to be the same in a lot of ways, but focusing the middle of the year on how to move through what remains of 2020 and to really put a stake in the ground about how to thrive moving forward from 2021 and beyond. I like this phrase. McKinsey refers to this time period that we're living in right now as the Great Unfreezing. What do they mean by that? We are going through an unfreezing from the frozen shock of managing all of these issues at one time. We've been forced to work in new ways and to do things that we didn't think we were capable of doing. But here's what I want you to remember. Now, as the world begins to move into the new post-COVID era, the key is not to go back. It's to catalyze that momentum, catalyze the momentum that you found in moving students online and supporting students, changing processes and systems. So it's about harnessing the power of what we learned about ourselves and moving forward. We're going to unpack what's next for higher ed. And I'm going to walk you through this through the lens of academics, student affairs, and facilities. I argue, and I have been arguing this for years, we are now in the most exciting time period for higher ed. It's one of the most exciting time periods that I've experienced, and I've been in teaching in higher ed for over a decade. Now we have the opportunity to reimagine learning, reimagine education, rewrite the rules so that we can re-engage students in ways that enable them to thrive. So when we talk about this, it's about writing new rules around learning and what that means, writing new rules around student experiences and the role that experience plays in driving the success and outcomes of our students. We have an opportunity to rewrite rules around equity, particularly for underserved students. What I love is that we now have the opportunity to merge technology and learning so that we can help students match their passions to their work to their passions. Community colleges are at the forefront of this. Over and over and over again, there are remarkable examples of community colleges just like you that are driving change, optimizing technology, and moving students through processes that enable them to optimize their potential and to match the student potential and learning with the needs of the market. When I say it's exciting because we have an opportunity to help students to be resilient, relevant, bold, and thrive in the unfolding of the future of work. Now, when we talk about the future of higher education, we can't leave out the whole notion of artificial intelligence. So here's what I want you to know and think about AI in the context of higher ed. There are really 5 fundamental goals. It's about leveraging these technologies so that we increase outcomes for students, have the opportunity to lower and balance costs, increase access for learning for more students, decrease the amount of time that it takes to complete a degree or program, and absolutely to increase retention. And when we look at these goals, we look at them through the lens, as I said before, not only of academics, but all the way through the experience, the student experience through their life cycle. So what's new in academics? What can we expect? I remember when I was early in my research, and I remember looking at the impact that artificial intelligence would have on work and how it would slowly move through higher education. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, that we will have to work and live with robots. They'll be everywhere. Well, maybe not so much. So are we going to replace faculty with robots? Not so much. However, we will work side by side with system bots like algorithms that enable us to do our work more efficiently and to be able to develop deeper relationships with students by freeing up time. Let's take a look at some of those. So think about more AI infused into learning management systems. Talk about learning pathways a lot in community colleges for students. Think about being able to optimize artificial intelligence and machine learning to personalize learning pathways for students. How about grader bots? Think about how much time would be freed up if we were able to use AI in the grading process. I actually experienced that in the program that I completed with MIT. In one of my courses, we had a comprehensive project to complete that was tied to a business problem. And the entire project was evaluated and graded by AI, machine learning that just got smarter and smarter over time and really honed in, and it really felt like a human experience. What about facial recognition? I like this one. Oftentimes as instructors, we wonder whether or not we're really resonating with our students. And sometimes we can struggle to engage them. But how about utilizing facial recognition to be able to assess this so that we can adjust in real time as we seek to engage students and promote positive learning outcomes? What about virtual reality for immersive learning experiences? Imagine that. A student in class, and you're teaching, and let's say you're teaching a student about safety, and they're able to have an immersive experience and really live that and apply that experience to the learning. Think about the power of that. How about AI used for developing curriculum? Now that sounds like it might be far off, but just pause for a minute and think about this. AI is being used widely in journalism and in marketing to create content. And we're now at a point where it's very difficult to determine the difference between content that's created by algorithms and people. Think about the ability to use AI to develop curriculum and to do it at a pace that we can't even imagine, so that we have an opportunity to align curriculum with workforce needs at a faster clip and that's more precise. We're already using remote learning, but more video conferencing. When we think about all of this, it's not about utilizing AI to eliminate the jobs. It's really not about that. It's about freeing up time so that we can stay human-centered, student-centered, and create more robust outcomes for students, deeper relationships, free up time for mentoring and developing our students. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about skills. Skills is at the heart of this, and aligning curriculum with skills. I want you to take a look at this chart, and really quickly, here's the key takeaway. It's not just anymore about teaching students and providing learning around a specific discipline. We now have to align skills tied to technology, social skills, and emotional intelligence skills. All of that has to be infused into our programs. It doesn't matter if it's a business program or it's a program that's tied to smart manufacturing or to bioscience. All of these, this is our new reality. So look in the upper right quadrant and the lower right quadrants. What skills are growing in need? Leadership, technology, design, creativity, advanced data and analytics, adaptability, complex information processing. So as educators, we have to think about how do we begin to start infusing those skills, not only into the curriculum, but into the experiences that we bring to the classroom for students, so that they're prepared when they cross over the other side of the stage. Let's take a deeper look at skills again. So this chart really kind of shows all of the influences that are driving this need for new skills. It ties into what we talked about earlier about the influence of Industry 4.0 and the future of work as well. But the rise of smart machines and systems, the fact that we're now globally connected, and the restructuring and the super restructuring of organizations. What does that mean? Back to that same point. They need skills and sense making. They need social intelligence, cross-cultural competencies. They need to have a design mindset to solve problems and complex computational thinking. You start to see why we need now this intersectionality across programs in order to best prepare our students. I really like this slide. This is a projection from a company called Burning Glass Technologies that does some really great work around assessing skills. LinkedIn does this too, for those of you that are interested. They do a breakdown, LinkedIn does every single month, of the core skills required in each region of the country. We go back to the same theme, cross-functional experience infused with AI and data fluency, leadership, adaptive thinking. Why is this important? This chart says it all. It is projected that the growth in hybrid jobs are jobs that require combinations of these skills that we're talking about. They are growing at a faster clip, nearly twice as fast as jobs that require skills related to one function. So that means a business student that graduates and wants to go on to a 4-year degree and work in human resources. That same student now, to work in human resources, has to have a background in marketing. Why? Because they have to understand employer branding and employer and worker experience that hails from marketing. They've also got to have a high level of AI and data fluency, because they will be working hand in hand with these systems, and we'll get a glimpse of that in a moment. What else? Why else? Remember this? I showed you this slide before. If we prepare our students with these combinations of skills, it enables them to do something that's very unique. This is one of my favorite books. It's called Human Plus Machine. And it talks about all of the opportunities for growth and innovation that exist in the time period that we're living in right now. So when we talk about bringing those skills together for students, it'll help them find opportunities in what's called the missing middle, right? It'll help them understand and have the skills and competencies to work alongside algorithms and machines that help them transact better, amplify the work that they do, and embody the work that they need to do in the context of their specialty. It'll also help them find these unique spaces. I actually fall into one of those spaces. The work that I do is about helping organizations understand how to move through the future and what AI means in that context, and what that means in the context of transforming organizations through digital transformation. So I became a trainer and explainer right in the middle of the work that's done with humans and machines. Here's another reason why these students, all of our students, need to understand, understand the importance of all of these skills and the combination, the power of the combination. So the recruitment and selection journey has changed. I was asked this question: are students ready? The answer is most are not. So now even the application process for students and workers, when you apply for a job, AI is infused through most of that process. From logging in and creating a profile and just typing your information into the cells, you can have bots, a recruiter bot that is assessing candidates for skills, qualifications, education, experiences, organizational fit, and other competencies related to problem solving and flexibility. The next phase, video-based interviews. Some of you may have experienced that. Platforms like HireVue and others that use biometric and psychometric analysis to assess candidates very deeply in some of those same ways. Students are also being exposed to, and workers are being exposed to, having to take assessments. I remember back in the 90s, like this huge rise in assessments, and we could pretty much figure those out, right? Assessments around leadership and personality. These are totally different. These are assessments in many cases based in neuroscience, where we can ask one question. A candidate can answer a question and be assessed across 40 to 50 domains relative to soft skills and hard skills. So without those skills, without those experiences, our students are handicapped even at even at the application process, let alone moving into the workforce successfully. How about student services? It is all about experience. Let's talk about that intersectionality again. I do a lot of work with organizations about humanizing work, particularly as they move through digital transformation. What is fascinating is that students want the same type of experience that they want from employers. Meaningful work, a sense of purpose as they're moving through their studies. They want you to provide a platform for them to be socially connected. They want flexibility in when, where, and how they move through their education. They want professional development and mentoring. When we go back to that example of utilizing AI in the context of academics and freeing up that time, right? It frees up time for us to focus on professional development and mentoring. And they want it not just for the jobs they're going to do when they cross over the stage. They want them for development for skills that they'll need moving through this decade, which is the most transformational decade of our lives in the context of organizational change. They realize that AI will be more and more infused throughout their experience, but they want you to use the data for good. They want you to be transparent about how you use it. What else emerged? What we do know about millennials and Gen Z is that, and alphas for that matter, which are just under Generation Z, is they suffer from some of the highest levels of anxiety and depression than any other generation. And so they expect employers and they expect colleges to meet them there and to have solutions and to be able to help them move through some of these challenges. They want you to be able to help them live their full potential and to help them identify their strengths. And the issue of social impact continues to grow. And we talk about our COVID accelerated future and all the other things that we managed with that relative to social justice and equity. Students want to know that the school is making a difference. They want to be able to know that the employers that they work with are making a difference. And they want you to show them how to make a social impact. Now, when we talk about the influence of AI in order to facilitate those experiences, we're talking about using artificial intelligence across admissions, the Career Center, financial services, counseling and advising, and even in public safety. So we already have some of this in place. There are a lot of universities that already utilize AI and machine learning to help market to students effectively and to help them identify ideal students and to predict which students will have the best outcomes and have the propensity to complete. But in the Career Center, think about the ability to use AI to very easily match, identify skills tied specific to the region, and to also be able to use AI to make job predictions. Think about the connection between that type of data and what that can do to power transformation across curriculum. Virtual advisors and coaches, almost like bots, and predictive job matching. There's a platform called Handshake, and there are several others that intuitively use AI and machine learning to assess the passions and interests of students along with their educational tracking to help match them with the right job and the right types of organizations. And it does it in a way that we could do as humans, but it would take quite some time to do it, particularly in managing large numbers of students. But what's really cool about it is that if a student has a certain passion about working for an organization that matches his or her values and mission in life and values, utilizing AI and machine learning to match them is a great way to do it. Think about being able to utilize AI in financial aid and having data, predictive analytics that helps you understand the financial needs of students and enables the capability of delivering micro loans to students. Scheduling and advising, early warning systems for students that are at risk of failing or dropping out. I remember scheduling years ago, and that is a laborious process. Wow and wow about utilizing AI to schedule the right classes for the right students at the right time. And also being able to use on the counseling side, predictive analytics to take a look at or analyze students that may be at risk for health and well-being issues. On the public safety side, when we talk about this really rapid unfolding of the future of work, let's talk right now about public safety on campuses. And so there are apps available now to help colleges track the number of students that have been exposed to coronavirus. Also thermal recognition to be able to monitor social distancing. So if there are too many students clustered in an area, you're able to alert public safety so that they can really mitigate that level of congestion. Facial recognition, one of the schools that I teach for in the UC system uses that today to make sure that we have the right student, the folks that are on campus or the folks that need to be on campus. And virtual parking permits, I use that as well. It saves a lot of time, and it's a very efficient way of managing parking and the whole parking experience for students and staff. And also security drones. Not that these AI systems, again, are going to replace, it's not the job of the systems to replace you, right? It is to amplify and enhance the work that you do so that we can focus on our number one priority. That number one priority is promoting robust experiences and supports for students so that we can have a positive impact on their outcomes. What about facilities? We're talking about smart cognitive campuses. If you just look at this image, look at this. Flexible workspaces, AI everywhere, smart building management systems that can monitor everything that's happening mechanically and electrically across the campus. Grid interactive buildings, on-site energy storage, and even on-demand campus transportation. I can tell you I've used that. Imagine having an Uber-like service or mobility around bikes and other types of transportation that can get you from one part of the campus to the other. My absolute favorite is the ability to have buildings that are so smart that they can adapt to our own individual profiles around climate, lighting, and workspaces. I, in the summertime, carry around a battery operated fan because it gets so hot, and one means of conserving energy is not to utilize the air conditioning system at one of the schools where I teach during the summer. I would love, just by the command of my voice or a gesture, to be able to have my own microclimate happening in the classroom. What else? This one I love, indoor GPS positioning. Think about how many times you've been looking for a building or a classroom. Think about the power of having GPS to guide you through the campus. Flexible workstations, tech-enabled, the campus is tech-enabled everywhere. So it's digital integration, remote communications. Imagine students being able to learn anywhere on campus, sitting at a flexible workstation, utilizing a virtual reality platform to immerse him or herself into the lecture and the learning that's taking place in the classroom, a classroom full of maybe 30 students, maybe 100 virtually across all of your AACD campuses. The smart campus is also about healthy work, living, and learning spaces. Think about COVID in this regard when we talk about this acceleration. We talk about things like purified air in a classroom. I participated in a pilot program on a campus that was going to take a look over the course of a semester of the outcomes, or the impact rather, of purified air, green spaces, and redesigned classroom design for students and the impact on their learning. That was a pilot for something that would be implemented really kind of 5 years out. What are we talking about now? We talk about even returning to campus. The whole issue of purified air has become front and center in the context of even mitigating coronavirus. So what about the future of Austin Community College District? What's the future? Here's what I know. I know that you are passionate about the fact that ACCD is for everyone. Everyone, whether they're in biosciences, business, hospitality, underserved students, students with different abilities, students from different backgrounds. ACCD is for everyone. And that aligns squarely with expectations around the future of work and higher education. I'm a USC, University of Southern California grad, and we have a saying, this kind of mantra, and that is, we are SC. Now, we mostly use that at football games, but you get the point. Here's what I want you to remember. You are ACCD. So my question for you is, how are you going to shape the future for our students? Think about your legacy. What will your legacy be? I want to share a quote with you It's one of my favorite TED Talks from Brad Meltzer. He says, your legacy is what you do for other people and the impact that those actions have on their lives. The people in your community will remember you for your participation and your contributions. I want your students to remember you, whether you're in facilities, academics, student services. I want them to remember you. I want them to remember your legacy. I want you to help shape the future. I want us to commit together as educators, as members of this higher education ecosystem. I want us to commit to the fact that as the future of work and the future of higher ed continues to unfold across this decade, that we will be committed to helping our students be resilient, relevant, bold, so that they can thrive in the future of work. Thank you.